The calm before the punch. The classroom smelled faintly of ozone and recycled air, a sterile aroma that did nothing to mask the tension coiling like a predator in the room. Chrome desks reflected the harsh white light of overhead panels, their surfaces immaculate, gleaming with the cold perfection that every Zarin academy prided itself on. 10 alien cadets sat hunched over their data pads, tentacles flicking nervously. Their skin was a palette of sickly greens, steely blues, and dark purples, some patterned in stripes or blotches, some smooth as polished stone. Each of them had trained for centuries in the citadel of Zarin warcraft, honing reflexes, memorizing combat sequences, studying human warfare from every angle. Every angle, except this one. In the corner, near the back, sat a lone human. Marcus Kane. Lean, unassuming, almost painfully average in build compared to the hulking cadets surrounding him. Shorter than the average Zarin by nearly half a head, wiry, with a faint scar tracing down the right side of his jaw, he seemed entirely out of place. He had nothing but a battered notebook, a scratched pen, and an old combat knife strapped to his hip. Yet, as he surveyed the room with those piercing blue eyes, quiet as a predator, the air around him seemed to thrum with latent menace. The instructor entered, a monstrous figure with 6 limbs, a torso covered in armor-like scales that shimmered like molten metal, and eyes that glowed an unearthly orange. His presence alone made even the bravest cadets tense. "Cadet Kane," he hissed, voice a grating rasp that reverberated through the floor. "You will face today's simulation. You will be outnumbered. You will submit." Marcus shrugged lazily, the kind of casual movement that made every eye in the room flick toward him. "Sounds like a Tuesday," he said, and the calm in his tone was worse than any threat. The alien cadets exchanged glances, tentacles twitching in amusement. One of them, a hulking brute with clawed arms ending in wicked talons, leaned over and whispered, "You're going to regret stepping into this room, human. Your species should never have left its mudball planet." Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't even glance at him. Humans had a funny way of rewriting the rules without anyone noticing until it was too late. That was about to happen. The simulation began. With a flick of the instructor's claw, holographic walls rose, and training weapons hummed with lethal energy. 10 aliens advanced, their formation a textbook-perfect pincer maneuver designed to overwhelm a single opponent. Every motion was precise, rehearsed, and calculated. And every motion was wrong, at least against Marcus Kane. He stood and cracked his knuckles. One foot shifted forward, almost lazily. The first alien lunged with a swipe aimed to cleave his torso in half. Marcus shifted sideways, almost imperceptibly, and the alien's claws met empty air. A flick of his wrist, a sudden pivot, and the brute collapsed, chest crushed under the sheer precision of a single human strike. No cry escaped him, just the quiet sound of bone and tendon failing under impossible pressure. The room froze. 10 cadets, all trained in the art of war for centuries, blinked in disbelief. Even the instructor's multiple eyes widened. "What?" hissed the alien brute from the floor, staring at the human like he just witnessed a ghost. Marcus shrugged again. "Like I said. Tuesday." A laugh rippled across the room, low and dark, entirely human. The aliens couldn't parse it. Laughter was not part of their combat protocol. It was alien. Unsettling. Dangerous. The other 9 attacked, a coordinated storm. Tentacles lashed, claws swiped, and psychic projections shot like needles through the air. Marcus moved through it all with the fluidity of water and the precision of a scalpel. A dodge here, a counter there, his knife appearing in flashes, a blur that defied both their calculations and their instincts. One alien tried a joint lock maneuver, thinking brute strength and biomechanical knowledge could subdue him. Marcus twisted mid-step, flipped over the alien's shoulder, and slammed him into the wall. Crack. A tentacle snapped. Another cadet reached out, only to be met with a precise strike to the optic sensors that sent him tumbling backward, screaming. The instructor's claws scraped against the floor, a sound like metal on metal, vibrating with fury. "Stop him!" Marcus didn't stop. He didn't even breathe hard. Every strike he delivered was designed not to kill outright, not yet, but to destabilize, to humiliate, to teach a lesson in terror. You think you're apex predators? Marcus growled, his voice a low rumble that seemed to make the air itself vibrate. Guess again. One alien hesitated, twitching, analyzing, trying to predict a human's next move. That fraction of a second, just a breath, became an eternity. Kane took it, spinning, kicking, striking. 2 more cadets were down, their limbs bent in impossible angles, their weapons scattered. Blue and green blood sprayed the wall in a macabre abstract pattern. The instructor roared. A sound that shook the floor, rattled the chrome desks, made the human's hair stand on end. He cannot be. Marcus laughed again. A cold, dark sound. Cannot? You might want to check your textbooks. Seems like you skipped over human biology. The remaining cadets lunged, forming a tighter formation, thinking numbers would matter. But Marcus Kane had already become a storm. Every strike was a lesson, every dodge a lecture. He was fast, unpredictable, and terrifyingly precise. One punch, a kick to a tendon, a sweep that left 3 aliens tangled on the floor. It was as if he were orchestrating chaos into a symphony of destruction. The first minute passed like an hour. By the second, 3 aliens were down, sprawled across the floor in ungraceful heaps. 5 remained standing, their eyes wide with panic. They'd prepared for centuries for human tactics. None of it mattered. Marcus moved like instinct made flesh. He didn't even need to breathe between strikes. The final blow of the opening sequence came not from his knife, but from a chair. Marcus grabbed a simple metal chair, spun it like a discus, and sent it crashing into the chest of the largest alien. The force drove him into 2 others, creating a chain reaction that left the room reeking of ozone and alien panic. 10 cadets, 10 highly trained aliens, sprawled across the floor like discarded toys. Silence fell. Not the silence of a room ending its simulation, but the silence of disbelief, of horror, of an entire species realizing that their calculations, their centuries of study, had failed spectacularly. The instructor's eyes burned with fury. This is impossible," he hissed. Marcus leaned back against his desk, knife glinting faintly in the cold light. "I told you, just Tuesday." The aliens shivered, their psychic defenses straining against something they didn't understand. And Marcus Kane, human, ordinary, underestimated, smiled. The lesson had just begun. When chaos became art. The aliens regrouped as best they could, but the room no longer obeyed their expectations. Holographic walls flickered under the strain of Marcus Kane's unpredictable movements, sensors overloaded by the speed and precision of his strikes. 10 against 1 was supposed to be a guaranteed victory, a training exercise designed to teach cadets humility in the face of a stronger opponent. But Marcus didn't just defy expectations, he shredded them. The first alien to recover, a lithe cadet with serrated claws and skin like burnished copper, launched a high-speed pincer maneuver aimed at Marcus's midsection. In response, Marcus pivoted, his knife slicing a perfect arc through the air. The alien's claw met nothing but empty space before Marcus ducked low, tripping him with a sweep of his boot. He fell forward, slamming into the wall, stunned, disoriented. Marcus didn't pause to gloat. He moved on, fluid as water, almost invisible in his motions. Another cadet tried to trap him with tentacles tipped in razor-sharp points. The alien's psychic attack followed, a shimmering pulse designed to freeze the human in place. Marcus simply laughed, a low, chilling sound, and rolled through it. His knife flicked out with mechanical precision, severing one tentacle, then another. He moved with purpose, each strike calculated to incapacitate without wasting energy. "Impossible!" one alien screeched, staggering back. This isn't in the database." Marcus grinned. "Databases are for cowards. Humans fight." By now, the room was chaos incarnate. Desks were overturned, holographic panels shattered, and the air was heavy with ozone, sweat, and alien blood. Marcus was everywhere and nowhere at once, striking, dodging, spinning, countering, and exploiting every opening. The remaining cadets were experts in Xiran combat, but they had never seen a human fight like this. Unpredictable. Ruthless. Terrifyingly clever. One of the larger cadets, a hulking brute with armored skin like obsidian, charged directly at Marcus. The instinctive expectation was that Marcus would dodge, but he didn't. Instead, he sidestepped at the last possible moment, guiding the brute forward. Momentum carried him into the other cadets, and a carefully timed trip caused the entire formation to collapse in a domino effect. They crashed into one another, tangled and stunned, leaving Marcus standing calmly, almost bored, amidst the writhing heap. "You, how?" one cadet gasped, struggling to free himself. Marcus tilted his head. "I adapt. That's what humans do. You should try it sometime." The instructor's roar shook the walls, reverberating through the floor like a seismic wave. "Stop him! Now!" Marcus smiled and picked up a fallen training staff. With a single flick, he sent it spinning like a spear, striking one cadet squarely in the chest. The force knocked him into a wall, where he slid down with a groan, unconscious. Two others attempted a coordinated psychic attack, trying to overload Marcus's neuro-responses. Marcus reacted in the blink of an eye, spinning out of the way, sending one into a pile of wrecked desks, and tripping the other into his own psychic projection. He was a whirlwind of controlled violence, turning every attack against its originator. "You think your centuries of training give you an advantage?" Marcus snarled, ducking a clawed swipe. "Your arrogance is your weakness." By the halfway mark, 5 cadets were down, incapacitated in various brutal ways, a combination of knocked-out limbs, fractured bones, and stunned unconsciousness. The remaining 5 hesitated. They were highly trained, yes, but fear had replaced confidence. They had been taught that humans were fragile, unpredictable in a primitive way, incapable of handling advanced combat simulations. They were wrong. Terribly, fatally wrong. Marcus didn't just fight. He taught. Every move, every strike, was a lesson in human superiority disguised as improvisation. He struck at pressure points, twisted joints beyond their normal range, disarmed, threw, and incapacitated with lethal precision. He used the classroom itself as a weapon, flipping desks, kicking chairs into chests, and using holographic panels as shields and projectiles. It wasn't just combat, it was a symphony of chaos, and Marcus was conducting. The instructor tried to intervene directly. 6 limbs moved in rapid succession, claws aimed at Marcus's torso. The human met each strike with calm anticipation. He stepped aside, then suddenly spun, sending the instructor stumbling into one of his own cadets. The collision sent 3 of them sprawling across the floor, groaning, disoriented. "Enough!" the instructor bellowed, voice trembling with rage and disbelief. "You cannot be!" Marcus leaned on the edge of a desk, knife in hand, breathing evenly. "Cannot?" he said, voice low and dangerous. "I think you underestimate us again. Humans fight differently. We don't just react, we anticipate, we improvise, we finish the job." The remaining cadets tried one last coordinated assault, a synchronized strike meant to overwhelm him from all sides. Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he executed a move so fast it looked like he had multiplied into multiple figures. He kicked one cadet into a wall, spun another with his momentum into a desk, and disarmed the last 3 in under 5 seconds. When the dust settled, Marcus stood alone. 10 cadets lay sprawled across the floor, some unconscious, some in stunned pain, all humiliated and terrified. Blood, blue-green, iridescent, stained the floor and walls. The air vibrated with the shock of impossibility. Even the instructor's multiple eyes glimmered with awe and disbelief. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow and smiled faintly. "Lesson 1," he said casually. "Humans adapt. Lesson 2, we fight smarter than you think. And Lesson 3, never, ever underestimate us." A silence followed, broken only by the faint hum of malfunctioning holographic panels and the occasional groan from a cadet waking from unconsciousness. The instructor, trembling, hissed, "This cannot be real. He's not supposed to." Marcus tilted his head. "He's real. And he's human. Welcome to reality. The cadets who had survived didn't know whether to flee, cry, or scream. Marcus didn't give them a choice. He simply smiled, knife glinting in the cold light, and stepped toward them. You've all learned something today, he said. Maybe you won't like it, maybe it'll sting. But it's simple. Humans don't follow rules. We rewrite them. And when you underestimate us, we make sure you remember why you should be afraid. The instructor froze. The remaining cadets were shaking. And Marcus Kane? He looked entirely too calm for someone who had just unleashed pure, unrestrained human chaos on a room full of trained alien warriors. The twist they didn't see coming. The surviving cadets scrambled to their feet, their limbs trembling, their tentacles twitching in unison like a hive mind reacting to a threat too fast, too unpredictable, and too brutal to process. 5 against 1 had already proven fatal in theory. Now it was all but meaningless in practice. Marcus Kane stood in the center of the chaos, a calm storm, his knife gleaming, eyes scanning, calculating. The instructor, molten-scaled and six-limbed, bellowed a command that ricocheted through the classroom. Stop him! Restrain him! Marcus tilted his head, almost lazily. Stop me? Cute. You've got about 5 seconds before your definitions of control and restraint go up in smoke. It was true. Marcus didn't just fight with fists and blades. He fought with strategy, improvisation, and human ingenuity that defied their centuries of training. While the cadets lunged and swung, he moved in ways no one could predict, turning their formations against themselves. A swipe of his knife here, a trip there, and suddenly the supposedly coordinated assault looked like a chaotic mess of flailing limbs. Then came the signature move, the twist the aliens weren't prepared for. Marcus Kane, human cadet, leaned over, picked up a console panel that had fallen in the earlier melee, and slammed it onto the floor. Sparks erupted as the holographic interface shorted out. He didn't just fight the cadets anymore. He turned the classroom itself into a weapon. The lights flickered, and the walls hummed ominously as Marcus activated the neural interface link the instructor had arrogantly assumed was secure. Within seconds, the holographic training drones, defense turrets, and simulated hazards, all designed to protect and challenge the cadets, began to operate on Marcus's command. The room became a labyrinth of traps, a deadly ballet choreographed entirely by a human mind. One cadet lunged at him, claws extended. A holographic wall materialized beneath him, sending him sliding across the floor and crashing into a pile of desks. Another tried to unleash a psychic pulse, but the neural link Marcus hijacked reflected it back in a distorted loop. The alien screamed, clutching his head as his own psychic energy tore at his senses. This is impossible! One cadet shrieked, falling to his knees. No human can. Yes, I can. Marcus interrupted, voice low, dripping with that unnerving calm that humans carried in the face of chaos. You just underestimated me, again. By now, the 5 remaining cadets were scrambling desperately, trying to form any kind of coordinated counterattack. But the room was no longer a neutral battlefield. Desks flipped, holograms lashed out with precision, turrets pivoted on their own to block escape routes, and even the floor seemed to shift under their feet, tilting and vibrating as if the building itself had joined Marcus in his war dance. The instructor, realizing the fight had moved beyond simple combat, charged directly at Marcus, claws aimed to tear him apart. Marcus didn't dodge. Instead, he sidestepped at the last possible moment. The instructor's momentum sent him crashing into 2 cadets who were flanking him, leaving 3 of them groaning and incapacitated on the floor. Marcus's voice rang out, low and mocking. You trained centuries to face humans, and this is how you imagined it would go? The cadets panicked. Their confidence shattered, their strategies rendered meaningless. Every attack they tried was anticipated, countered, or redirected. Marcus had flipped the battlefield into a weapon, a living, breathing maze designed to punish them for their arrogance. He was not just winning, he was teaching a lesson in fear, precision, and the terrifying versatility of humanity. You call yourselves warriors? Marcus shouted, moving with the grace and speed of a storm. You think centuries of training can match instinct, Improvisation and raw human ingenuity? You've been lied to. Every species in this galaxy thinks they've seen war, until a human shows up. One of the cadets, trembling, tried to grab a fallen blaster. Marcus kicked it across the room with surgical force. It struck another cadet in the chest, knocking him flat. Weapons? Redundant, Marcus muttered. Brains and reflexes? Now we're talking. The instructor, enraged beyond reason, tried a final psychic offensive. His 6 limbs moved like a blur, clawing, swiping, striking, and simultaneously attempting to crush Marcus's neural signals with pure psychic force. Marcus staggered for a heartbeat, but only a heartbeat. With a grin, he triggered the last element of his plan. Every defense system, every drone, every holographic hazard turned against the instructor. The alien master was slammed into the floor repeatedly, unable to recover, as Marcus moved among the cadets like a predator in his natural habitat. By the time the emergency lockdown finally triggered, sealing the classroom in total containment, Marcus Kane stood alone. 10 cadets, including their instructor, were sprawled across the floor, unconscious, disoriented, and humiliated. The room was a testament to raw human ingenuity and brutality. Blood streaked the walls, sparks flew from broken consoles, and shattered holograms flickered weakly in the chaos. The silence that followed was almost sacred. The surviving cadets were barely conscious, too terrified to speak. The instructor's multiple eyes blinked, wide with disbelief and fear. Marcus sheathed his knife and looked around casually, as though nothing extraordinary had just happened. "You're welcome," he said dryly. A whisper came from one of the cadets, trembling and barely coherent. This isn't in the curriculum." Marcus's grin widened. "Nope. You'll have to update your curriculum. Humans don't just follow the rules, we rewrite them. And when you underestimate us, we make sure you never forget." The instructor finally found his voice, a hiss that betrayed both anger and genuine terror. You've broken protocol. This was a simulation. You're impossible." Marcus shrugged. "I'm human. That's the point. You'll adapt, eventually. Maybe." He stepped over a twitching cadet, knife glinting. "Lesson 1: Humans adapt. Lesson 2: Humans fight smarter and faster than you can imagine. Lesson 3: Never, ever underestimate us." Outside the classroom, the citadel of Zirin Warcraft would never be the same. Whispers began immediately, whispers of a human who turned a controlled simulation into a near-apocalyptic display of combat mastery, one who had bent the training environment to his will, and who had left 10 highly trained cadets unconscious and humiliated. Somewhere deep within the political councils of the Zirin Empire, they began to murmur, this species is dangerous. They think small, they fight smart, and they don't even know when they're bored." Marcus Kane, as always, remained calm. Humans did not need validation, did not need glory. They needed results. And today, he had delivered results on a scale no one could have predicted. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just another species to be catalogued, studied, or underestimated. They were a force, chaotic, brutal, ingenious, and terrifyingly effective. And Marcus Kane was just the beginning. Humanity shows its teeth. When the lockdown finally deactivated, the classroom was unrecognizable. Holographic walls flickered and died, panels hung crooked, and the air was thick with ozone, blood, and the acrid smell of alien panic. 10 cadets lay sprawled across the floor, unconscious, their pride shattered, their arrogance pulverized by the human who had outthought, outmoved, and outclassed them at every turn. Marcus Kane stood amid the ruin, calm as ever, wiping a streak of iridescent blood from his cheek. He wasn't smiling out of triumph, it was amusement, dry and cold, the kind only humans could wear while standing in the aftermath of chaos. Somewhere deep in the citadel, alarms blared. Reports streamed upward through layers of command, simulation breach. 1 human cadet incapacitated 10 aliens. Instructor compromised. Full review required. But Marcus didn't wait for bureaucrats or reports. Humanity didn't wait. Humans acted. They adapted. They finished the job. Outside the training hall, the surviving cadets groaned and staggered to their feet. Their eyes, wide and uncomprehending, followed Marcus as he approached. Tentacles quivered, claws flexed nervously, but none dared attack. Each of them had witnessed firsthand that this species, this human, was nothing like they had been taught. You're just one," stammered the largest cadet, his voice cracking under the weight of terror. "I'm all you need to remember," Marcus said simply. The instructor, molten-scaled and six-limbed, tried to rise, fury and disbelief warring in his multiple eyes. "This cannot stand. You violated the protocols of the Citadel. You've destroyed centuries of training." Marcus tilted his head. "Centuries of training? Cute. Guess what? Humans aren't bound by your traditions. We don't care about your centuries of training. We care about results. And today, the results speak for themselves." One cadet attempted a desperate flanking maneuver. Marcus's eyes followed, calculating angles, predicting movement. With a single step and a flick of his wrist, he sent the cadet tumbling across the floor, crashing into a wall with a sickening thud. The remaining cadets froze. None of them could process what they had just witnessed. Then Marcus did something that no human had ever been expected to do. He accessed the Citadel's central neural interface remotely. Every defense system, every training drone, every holographic weapon in the facility obeyed his command. The surviving cadets panicked as walls shifted, floors tilted, and lasers crisscrossed the room with surgical precision. He didn't even touch a weapon. The environment itself had become a weaponized extension of his mind. "This is impossible," one cadet squeaked, trembling as a holographic barrier trapped him mid-stride. "No human can control the systems like this." "Guess again," Marcus said, stepping forward. "Humans adapt. Humans improvise. And humans don't lose." By now, the Citadel's security had realized the situation was beyond control. Alarms screamed, and internal comms erupted with panicked voices. Marcus ignored it all. His focus was absolute, his moves precise. Every cadet that tried to recover, every tentacle or claw aimed at him, every psychic pulse, it was countered, deflected, or turned back against its originator. By the time security drones arrived, they found only the aftermath: 10 incapacitated cadets, a trembling instructor, and Marcus Kane, standing calmly, victorious, untouched, and untouchable. News spread faster than plasma fire across the galaxy. Holonet feeds, interstellar communication channels, and covert intelligence networks all carried the same headline: "Human Cadet Dominates Citadel Simulation. 10 Ziran Trainees Neutralized. Instructor Compromised." Some interpreted it as a glitch, others as propaganda. But the message was clear to anyone who had witnessed it firsthand: humans were dangerous. Terrifyingly dangerous. Back on Earth, Admiral Hargrove and the Human Command Council watched the video feed with grim satisfaction. The feed played in slow motion, each precise kick, strike, and calculated maneuver highlighted for analysis. "That's the problem with teaching alien cadets," Admiral Hargrove said, swirling a glass of whiskey. "They think they've seen war. They think they know strategy. And then a human shows up, and suddenly, centuries of theory are irrelevant. Their tech? Useless. Their arrogance? Fatal." Marcus didn't seek praise. Humans didn't fight for applause. But he did make a note: Lesson 1, humans adapt. Lesson 2, humans fight. Lesson 3, never underestimate us. Simple, concise, and brutally effective. In the Citadel, the surviving instructor submitted a formal report. Its words trembled with a mixture of fear, awe, and humiliation. Cadet Kane displays abilities outside known physical and psychological parameters. Recommend immediate containment. Recommend extermination if containment fails. Containment wasn't the point. Extermination wasn't necessary yet. Humans weren't just survivors. They were predators who rewrote the rules without asking permission. They were chaos incarnate, organized, precise, and utterly terrifying. The surviving cadets huddled in the corner, shaking, their confidence shattered. They had trained for centuries, they had studied human tactics, and they had known the limits of their own abilities. None of it mattered. They had underestimated humanity. And in that underestimation, they had met their reckoning. The galaxy, too, would remember. Across planets and sectors, whispers began to spread. This species is dangerous. They think small, they fight hard, and they don't even know when they're bored. Back in the training yard, Marcus Kane strolled casually among the debris, knife sheathed, eyes calm, a faint grin on his face. 10 cadets had recovered enough to watch him pass. Their eyes met his, wide with fear and disbelief. "You ready for round 2? Marcus asked, voice low, almost teasing. They didn't answer. They couldn't. They had learned what it meant to face a human in combat: speed, precision, and adaptability that no simulation could ever replicate. They had learned that arrogance was a liability. They had learned that humanity, when cornered, didn't just fight back, it crushed, outsmarted, and terrorized. Somewhere in the council chambers of the Zarin Empire, whispers turned to debate. Senators, generals, and strategists discussed in urgent tones. This species is a problem. It fights differently. It adapts. It improvises. It wins. And Marcus Kane? He merely walked away. Humans always did. They left their mark, delivered the lesson, and disappeared, leaving the galaxy to wonder how a single human could achieve the impossible. Because that was the truth. Humanity wasn't just strong. Humanity wasn't just clever. Humanity was unpredictable, unstoppable, and utterly terrifying when it chose to fight. The day Marcus Kane turned a classroom into a war zone would live forever in galactic memory. 10 aliens had been neutralized. An instructor had been humiliated. An empire had been warned. Humanity had shown its teeth. And they were just getting started.